Welcome to Youth Sports Mastery on the Daily Parks and Rec Show, hosted by Aaron Locks and sponsored by National Academy of Athletics. Join us live every Thursday at 1:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time as Aaron sits down with coaches, recreation professionals, and industry leaders to discuss youth sports, athlete development, coaching excellence, and the positive impact sports have on young people and communities. Tune in for expert insights, inspiring stories, and practical strategies to help young athletes succeed. In this episode with Sandy Slade, we explore how fun, fundamentals, and physical activity help kids build confidence and develop lifelong skills.
Good day, everybody, and welcome to the Youth Sports Mastery. Once again, we're going to dive into everything youth sports. You know, as I navigate through this great country of ours and we talk about youth sports and what's happening, there's been so many changes that have come up. But one thing that's happening now is what's next, right? So if you're a parent, if you're in Parks and Rec right now, you're probably diving into, spring break's over and now it's summertime. Like, what's next? So there's a lot of people out there talking about what's next and what's coming up. And I've got a special guest today that we're going to talk about, but we're going to go back before we go forward. We're going to dive into lots of layers, lots of great information about just about sports and different perspectives. And I think, especially if you're a Parks and Rec professional out there, you're going to want to dive in. So let's take care of the spots, and I'll see you in 2 minutes and 2 seconds, and we'll dive in and bring on my special guest. You're going to love this one, Sandy Spin Slade. Go for it.
It didn't start with a big studio. It didn't start with a massive audience. It started with a simple idea. One conversation, one camera, one episode. Back then, DPRS Media Network was just a vision. No guarantees, no roadmap, just a purpose. To tell stories that mattered. Stories from the Parks and Recreation community. Stories of leadership, passion, impact, and the people making a difference every single day. Episode by episode, that vision began to grow. More conversations, more voices, more people who believed in what we were building. What started as a show became something much bigger. A place where people felt seen, a place where ideas were shared, a place where the Parks and Rec community could connect, learn, and inspire one another. And today, we celebrate a major milestone. 500 episodes, 500 stories, 500 moments, 500 reasons to keep moving forward. But this is not the finish line. This is the beginning of our next chapter. In the months ahead and in the years to come, DPRS Media Network is growing into something even greater. We are building something truly special for the Parks and Recreation community. Something designed to bring people closer, to create stronger connections, to open new opportunities, and to continue serving the people who inspire everything we do. We are also expanding our reach through new partnerships, working with organizations who believe in our mission, partners who share our vision for community, leadership, and impact. And beyond the screen, we're showing up in more places than ever before, attending conferences, meeting leaders face-to-face, building connections that strengthen our community. Because DPRS has never been just about content. It has always been about connection. To everyone who has been with us, from episode 1 to episode 500, thank you. This milestone belongs to all of you. Here's to how it all started. And here's to everything still to come. The future of DPRS Media Network starts now.
It is exciting for me to be a part of this 500 episode. This journey has been a lot of fun. And today we get to walk back into time. I want to bring in Sandy. It's so hard because every time I want to say your name, it's like Sandy. That spin comes right in there. So let's talk a little bit about who you are, why I'm excited to have you on the show, and then we can even go back a little bit more and dig in. But give them a little bit about who you are and what it is that you do, and how it ties into kids and sports and athletics and life and all that stuff.
Sure, absolutely. Aaron, thank you first for inviting me to be on your show. I love it. I really appreciate it. And we connected about a month ago after a long hiatus, and it was so neat to see you and just kind of reminisce. Just to give your audience my background, I was a professional sports entertainer for 22 years. What is that? Well, I spun basketballs for a living. I was a one-woman globetrotter, and I traveled the world spinning and dribbling basketballs. Halftimes for NBA games, colleges, school assembly programs, basketball camps. And that's actually where we met, Aaron. When I first started as a professional, we met at a basketball camp, and it was just a wonderful always wonderful experiences to be able to perform for kids in a camp setting. And now I retired after 22 years of performing, and I've now have a company called Skillastics, and we create physical activity resources and curriculum for after-school programs and physical education programs and park and recreation, getting kids to enjoy working on the basic fundamentals of sport and getting all kids to enjoy participating and enjoying every bit about it. Because if children are intimidated by the competitive nature of a sport, they're not going to participate. So our products, our curriculum gets all kids to enjoy. And so maybe they're sparked to say, yeah, I like this. I want to continue. So it's been quite a journey, but I wouldn't want it any other way.
Well, I love it. And when we bumped into each other and I looked at it, I go, I know this lady. People may not know. So I can juggle. Well, guess who inspired me to learn to juggle, right? There she is. And it's funny because what you're doing now, this was in the 90s, early 90s. So this is what, 30 years? Oh my gosh. Yeah. And you're still inspiring people. And I love that. And you inspired me to grow. And what does juggling have to do with basketball? Well, it's hand-eye coordination, it's confidence, it's showmanship, it's all these different things. And you don't just naturally learn to juggle, you got to work at it, right? Yes. So to do that it's all these different things. So to me, I just love the fact of the connection. And I tell everybody, if you're in youth sports, if you're in Parks and Rec, most people say, what is it, 5-6 degrees of separation for people? It's 2 or 3 for us, right? Somebody that knows somebody that we worked with and going forward, and how great it is that at a basketball camp with the Golden State Warriors or with the Los Angeles Lakers, and they've got all these great pro athletes, and yet they bring you in to entertain the kids and show what else they could do. And I remember walking around and just kind of teaching kids how to play with it. It was a really cool experience. So I want to go back to your childhood because maybe someone's out there who wants to be a sports entertainer, right? And we've seen that, but how the heck? But what about what did you do when you were a kid? How did that start?
Sure. I grew up in a small town in northern Wisconsin. I graduated from high school with 29 kids. I grew up on a 40-acre farm. My dad was the principal and basketball coach at our school. And so I was always around basketball. I have 2 younger brothers. One brother is only 11 months younger than me. And when you grow up on a farm, you don't have anybody else to play with. So you better be friends with your brother. And we played all sports constantly. During basketball season, we were constantly playing basketball, football, throwing the football around, softball. He played baseball, we'd be playing catch, so it was constant that we were doing so many different sports at once. So growing up in a small community gave me the luxury of being able to participate in all different sports. I just didn't concentrate on basketball, though that was my first love, but I was also volleyball, softball, and anything else that was going on, I was participated in.
I love that. And it's interesting that, obviously you flourished in basketball and it was your first love, but the idea, and you said something that I just want to tug on a little bit, I think it's not a luxury. I think it's a necessity that kids play multiple sports. I think we've gotten to a point where just like the foundation of what you do with your company is you're teaching kids how to use their body. So no matter what sport they play or whatever they do in life, they have balance, all those things, correct?
Oh, absolutely. I'm very lucky to have gone to a small school because I could participate in all different sports. There's so much competition in larger schools, so you pretty much very quickly have to narrow down to one particular sport. And I think that's an injustice to kids, because to me, I was able to participate in all different sports at a young age. And I think that balances out your body better in terms of muscles. Because if you participate in a sport at a young age too much, and I'm sure you've talked about this before, that's overuse syndrome and also burnout. So I feel very lucky that I had those breaks, even though basketball was my thing and I probably practiced it every day, but yet I also had those breaks where I concentrated on other sports.
And mentally too, right? I mean, I think that's the part. Someone came on the show a few weeks back, and I'm trying to remember exactly who it was, what they said, but I loved it. Is that they were watching a person in an airport, and they got off, and they just stopped in the middle of like literally blocking everything. And he said to me on the show, he said when he saw that, he said that person's never played sports, and I went. And he said, there's no spatial relationship. There's no spatial understanding of those around you. And it's funny. My mom was a wonderful artist. But like when we would drive with my mom, she would literally get in the car and go in the slow lane. It doesn't matter if there was like 77 cars slow. She would just stay there because she was singly focused. I was a guard. Are you kidding me? Where's the passing lane? Let's fill it up and let's go. Right. And so, not that my driving was better than my mom's, whatever, but I'm just saying, there's a way to go about it. And I think what's interesting to me is the communities that are blessed, the ones that I see are the ones that have great parks and recreation, because then those kids get the opportunity not to play, although fine with club and elite and travel, but more so, you want to play everything, play in the rec, because that's where you get the friendships and that's where you get all the different communities. It sounds like you didn't have that necessarily on that level, but we see that, right, with kids being able to play multiple sports through rec, correct?
Absolutely. I mean, being such a small town, we didn't have a park and recreation department. Everything was offered through the school, but it was the same thing in terms of being exposed to so many different sports. And that to me, I just, again, feel so lucky. And I feel like that has opened up my mind. And I think all my ability to do what I did at a high level, I think it all came from the foundation of being exposed to all different kind of sports and developing myself in, I think, a very positive way of being able to just move the body in all different ways just because of that exposure.
Right. And the other thing that I think is interesting to me, because I find that a lot of kids, if they're not good at something right away, or their parents, so then they just basically, they just drop it. But I got to imagine that you weren't born spinning 6 basketballs at one time, right? So it took a lot to do that. How do you develop that? How do you develop that? What is it that's innate in you? Because my guess is if you're learning to play basketball, your dad wasn't focused on you spinning a ball. He was probably focused more on jump stops and pivots and layups and fundamentals, right? So how did that come about? That's very interesting to me.
Well, just to tell you how I got inspired, I saw another lady when I was at a basketball camp put on a show when I was 12. And when I saw her, I said, that's what I want to do. What hit me about it was the way she made everybody feel. And me at 12 years old said, I want to make people feel that way. And so I just went home and I started practicing. And I think, okay, one of the things is that if you say, okay, I'm going to spin a basketball, spinning a basketball is overwhelming. And, you pick up a ball and you can't do it. Absolutely not. So what I did was I just set little goals for myself, and I would spend maybe, 15 minutes practicing and see if I could get the ball on my finger for a second, half a second. If I reached that goal, I accomplished what I needed to do for that day. And then I kept doing that, setting those little goals for myself. And then the big goal of spinning the ball as long as I wanted didn't seem so overwhelming, and it seemed achievable. So I didn't concentrate on the end game initially. I concentrated on the small increments. And that's the same thing for kids. Don't concentrate on the fact that I'm going to start on the varsity team.
Right.
Let's start with just basic moves that you're going to be successful at, and then continue to move forward from there. And then you're inspired to continue to keep going.
Right. It's funny because some people say the way I approach things, they're worried that I'm squashing kids' dreams of playing the NFL or playing the NBA or whatever. And I say, no, I think what I'm doing instead is I'm giving them the opportunity to do what you said, which is dream big.
Absolutely.
But think small, right? Yeah. Just little tiny piece. I tell everybody all the time, it's like my staff, and if you're taking these things on, it's like a 7-course meal. You start with one and then you work to the other. Because if you do it all at once, it's overwhelming, right? And that's how life is too, right?
Oh, absolutely. I think of John Wooden, and when he first had his team and he taught them how to put their socks on. That's a very specific detail, and why? Well, so they wouldn't get a bunch of blisters, and they thought he was nuts. But the thing is, attention to detail, start small and build from there, but always have that big wonderful dream there in the distance, and you're working toward it.
Right. And I love, what I love about Parks and Rec and the way that they go at it with sports for kids primarily is, at the National Cav Athletics, we focus on the effort rather than the result. Yeah. And we're not teaching not to compete. We're teaching them to compete using Coach Wooden to be the very best that they can be each day. And as well as I do, like you said, if they could do a little bit and get better and a little bit and get better, then at the end of the week, then a lot of it. We just had a mom give us a testimony. It was wonderful. She's like, my kids had never played soccer. They'd seen it, right? And then they showed up to camp, and I kind of watched, and it was like watching herding cats. I'm like, oh, whatever. She came Wednesday, and it was like they knew which direction to go. They were kicking with the inside of their foot. They're like, what happened? And that's the beauty of camps, right? And you got to go to a lot of camps. Sound like you went to camps as a kid, but you also got to go to camps and perform in front of those camps, right? And you got to do that.
Absolutely. Many of them. And you could see the beauty of camps is working on those basic fundamentals, and just seeing children blossom within a week, even in a day, to see them, working on a specific skill and seeing them getting that skill and improving upon that skill very quickly. Yes. And you can just see, a light bulb comes on and they're excited. I mean, with my company, Skillastics, the main thing that we do is we create products that catch their attention first. So you've got to do something that catches their attention. Right. And then second, they've got to succeed quickly. And if they succeed quickly, especially nowadays, because everything is instant gratification. So that piece is there and it needs to be addressed quickly. But if you can do that, then you've got them, you've hooked them, and you can continue to work on their skills, developing their skills, developing inspiring them, building up their confidence. And I can't think of a better place too is Park and Recreation, because of all the different programs that they offer.
Right. Yeah, the variety is so great. And it's funny because music relates to sports. People don't realize that. I mean, Pat Riley, he would talk about, when we work with Coach, he would talk about how a great basketball team is like a great jazz band. You know what I mean? And they all have their own playing together, and then, okay, improvise, hit it, and they break back in. So I love it. And Parks and Rec, where else are you going to get all of that but Parks and Rec? But I want to dig into camp. I'm a camp guy. Everybody knows I love camp. We're going to do 40,000 kids this summer in camps, and I'm excited. We're going for it. But I think the thing we have to realize as a parent, I want people to hear this, and I'd love to get your perspective. At camp, especially whether it's Parks and Rec or a recreational fundamental camp, not necessarily a high pressure competitive camp, but more so just allowing kids to go through it. I remember when I went to camp as a kid, I remember watching my kids and all these camps, is they get exposed and they see 10 kids in a group, 15 kids in a group, and they're all learning the same skill. And you learn from the success and failure of the other kids, and you go through this process, and then you aspire to do more. And there's this progression that happens, and they get to play. But basically it's about teaching them the evolution of the fundamentals. We're talking about basketball as they go. Whereas I think what happens, and I tell everybody this, if you play a youth basketball league, or you go to 1 week of basketball camp for 9 to 3, Monday through Friday, you're going to get more instruction, more fundamentals in 1 week at basketball camp than you probably will 2 hours practice 1 day a week for 10 weeks in a season, right?
Absolutely. Because a coach that has a league or a team, they have their goals, and their goal is to win. And so they're going to take the best players and they're going to work with them the most. You know, the other teammates are there and they're helping and trying to help develop those top players. But they are just working on what's good for the team. Working on the basic fundamentals usually comes from work after or before practice independently. And so when you're at a basketball camp and you work on those specific skills, you are working on those specific skills. You know, just a triple threat, holding the basketball correctly, how your stance, all these things are just things that the foundation, if you don't have that foundation, you know, you're not going to get to the elite level if you dream of that.
Right.
And so those kind of camps allow you to learn a lot more than you do if you're on a club team.
So Rick Barry, at the name drop, we were talking about it, and he said it's amazing that in the U.S. they play 4 days and practice 1. Yeah. In Europe, they practice 4 and play 1. And you wonder why they're kicking our butt, right?
That's right.
And that. But I love what you do with your company, because we inspire through Talk, Teach, Play, and making it fun and exciting to go through the process. And you're basically not delivering the staff, you're delivering the concepts and the curriculum and basically in a box and saying, okay, here's where we go down the path. So I don't want to get too deep in it yet, but I got a couple questions. So are you finding that your inspiration, because that's what I'm kind of trying to get at, what was your inspiration to go from what you've done, right, entertaining? And it's funny because we have a thing we call fittertainment, which is a combination of fitness and entertainment, which is right. But what inspired you, right, to go from what you were doing to starting a company where you're bringing Skillastics to these kids?
Yeah, I always had a soft spot for those kids that were picked last. You know, and so when I realized physically I was not going to be able to perform professionally forever, I started thinking about what else I was passionate, and it was getting kids to have a positive experience being physically active, especially those kids that normally would not be active. The joy and the energy and just everything that I got from sports, I wanted these kids to experience it too, you know. And when they had bad experiences, you could see their shoulders slump. You could see that they just were dejected, and it was just a terrible, and I felt bad for them. I really did. And so my thought was create a product that would get all kids to enjoy being physically active, all kids enjoying basketball fundamentals in a fun way. And so that was my inspiration. I mean, I just remember kids in my class that got picked last, and they hated it. They hate PE. And I was like, go, I love it. Let's go, you know, let's play. But I looked at those kids. I remember just seeing them, and they still have a bad experience. You talk about to them now as adults, and you ask them, they hated it. And a lot of those people are not active people now. So that really, you know, that's where the ultimate, continue to remain active throughout your lifetime.
Right. And it's a disservice we do to the kids, because that lasts through them. You know, at the National Camp Athletics, we do what's called self-sorting. So we don't have them pick teams the traditional way. If we're doing 4 teams, we'll have the kids line up and we'll say, okay, we got 4 kids with red shirts. You guys are the team captains. And now with a line, the first person line, pick what team you want to go to. So they pick
nice.
Team. And what we find is there's individual accountability. Now, obviously, the first 3 got to pick, and the last one goes to a team, and then they get to go forward. But what happens is they learn the individual accountability of picking where they want to go. And we mix up. Sometimes it's whoever's got the red shirt, sometimes whose birthday is in July, whatever it is. And there's this individual piece that makes them feel empowered.
Oh, yeah.
right? Because I got to be on the team. And then we also do, you know, we don't allow it to get too crazy because we don't focus on the score and the end result. We focus more on what are they doing. We have a high five program that we use, which I love. It's one of my favorite part about things we do, which is if you made the layup, well, probably somebody passed you the ball.
Right.
So when you make the layup, the first thing you do is not celebrate yourself. You turn back and say, thanks for the pass.
That's right.
Right. And so the kids in our camp, if they do those through our programs, we actually give them a wristband that they get to keep, which is a high five. And it's how many fives can you get through the week?
That's awesome.
Yeah. Right. And kind of lifting them up. When you were out there, I mean, again, I can so envision you running around and you were going through it, and you guys got to imagine she was literally sitting on the ground and spinning balls above her feet and her knees, and it was great. What I'm trying to figure out, how did you even come up with that? Like, what creativity? Because people weren't necessarily doing that, right? The Globetrotters, which I went to the Globetrotters basketball camp when I was a kid. I won a scholarship. I got to go to that, which was fun.
Cool.
But again, how do you get to that point creatively to do that?
Well, you know, first off, the lady that I saw that did tricks with basketball, she was spinning that multiple basketballs. So that got me inspired with regard to that piece. But as I developed my skills and developed my show, people would say, why don't you try this? I would try it. So I'd get inspiration from other people. By mistake, I might be practicing and I do something, I go, ooh, that's kind of cool. And then I would practice it and then add it to my show. Yeah. And then also just, you know, we didn't have the internet at that time. And so just things that maybe watching the Globetrotters and then just trying different things, you know, maybe they dribble two basketballs. Hey, I'm pushing the envelope. I'm trying 3, I'm trying 4, you know, and those are the kind of things that I just, that inspired me. So I had a variety of different areas, and then I guess I've been blessed with creativity, so that I, you know, was able to choreograph a show that would be successful at camps and schools and other places.
Well, you also brought a ton of energy, which is, to me, that's what's it. Yeah. Okay. So I get questions sometimes because people are like, well, I want to do the Steph Curry drills. You know, I want that. I said, I understand your kid's 7, right? So would you talk a little bit about skill progression? Because I think it's important. You've talked about a little bit in terms of that, but even in your mentality with Skillastics, but skill progression, because obviously if people have a 7-year-old and they go try to do the Steph Curry drills where he's dribbling 2 balls and he's shooting the ball from 40 feet and doing that, that's not probably going to make them successful, correct?
No. And that's going to lead to burnout, and the child is probably going to quit. And so, you know, there's always a time and a place. You also have to look at the individual child. You know, if they're just, well, let me step back just a little bit. I was unique. I was just so unique, and I was so passionate about practicing the basic fundamentals. That was innate in me. That's in my DNA. Doesn't happen all the time, but that doesn't mean a child can't develop into a great player. Right. You know, so being able to, you know, think that a child's going to be at that level right away, that's highly unlikely. If they are, maybe you can push it, and you can see that if that child is ready. But most of the time, they're not. Start them off where they succeed. I remember I used to give some basketball lessons for a while to kids, and parents would pay anything to get to work with me. And I remember this one parent, I always would share with them after, hey, this is what we worked on, and, you know, for the child, and they did a great job, et cetera, et cetera. And I remember this one father saying, great, she can introduce it in the game next week. And I said right away, I said, sir, that's not going to happen. She's got to practice it. She's got to feel confident in the practice, and then in, you know, just pickup games, use it. And then eventually she's going to put it into a game because she'll have the confidence. The situation is right, all those pieces. But, you know, they want it now. My kid, you know, they're going to be a WNBA player. They're going to be an NBA player. You know, they're going to do. And you know what? Some will, not many, but some will. But some, what we want is for kids to develop skills and all the pieces of sports that will allow them to be quality individuals great parents, good people that work at, businesses, hard workers,
Amazing citizens. Isn't that what we just want to
amazing citizens.
Absolutely
Exactly.
amazing citizens. Dr. Herbert, who works with us, he introduced to our company what's called proximal play and teaching. And I think it's so important, and it's what you're talking about. If a child goes in and it's too easy, they're going to get bored. Right. But if it's too hard, they're going to quit. So if you took a 7-year-old and brought him to a regular size tube with a regular size ball, it may be a real challenge, too much. But if you bring the hoop down a foot and you give a little smaller ball, they can have more success, right? And so you want to continue to help them and inspire them to grow and do these things, but we also have to keep them challenged. I think we're going to find the balance on that. Look, we're running up against it. We're going to take a quick break and pay some bills, so to speak. When we get to the other side, see you guys in 2 minutes. When we get back, we're going to dive a little bit more into what she does with Skillastics and how maybe it can help out with Parks and Rec and help kids and inspire more kids to get engaged and get off the screens and unplug and get active. We'll see you guys in a couple minutes.
In today's parks and recreation industry, communication, safety, and efficiency go hand in hand. That's where Outdoor Link comes in, delivering smart technology that empowers city departments and community planners to do more, smarter. Outdoor Link's platform connects and automates everything that keeps your parks running smoothly. From lighting and locks to signage, water features, Wi-Fi, and digital advertising. Control and schedule park lights for safety and energy savings. Remotely manage facility access. Coordinate fountains and splash pads. Provide public connectivity. All from one simple, unified platform, giving you real-time control, data, and cost efficiency. For parks and recreation agencies, that means safer spaces, smarter resource use, faster responses, and stronger community engagement. And behind every great park story is great infrastructure. That's why Outdoor Link proudly supports DPRS Media Company, helping the daily Parks and Rec show amplify the voices of professionals shaping our communities every day. Outdoor Link, smart, connected solutions for parks, recreation, and beyond.
They say it's just rec. Just rec, where kids learn to try again. Just rec, where confidence begins. Where teamwork, effort, and fun matter more than trophies. It's not about perfection. It's about participation. It's not just rec. It's where kids learn to love the game and themselves. It's just rec until they learn teamwork for life. It's just rec, but it's everything to them. It's more than rec. It's a movement. It's just rec until you realize it's shaping the next generation. Together, we're not just running programs. We're building a culture of confidence, connection, and community. Join us.
Welcome back to the Youth Sports Mastery Show. I've got Sandy Slade here from the Skillastics. We've been talking everything youth sports, a little entertainment, a little bit of fun. And as promised, I want to dive in a little bit, as an entrepreneur, and maybe there's some out there, but I always think of what are we doing here? What are we solving, right? And you mentioned earlier a little bit, and your company, basically, if I'm correct, it's physical activity made simple.
Yep.
Right, that's what it is. So talk a little bit about the inspiration and how you dove into those. Are kind of catching up, and we've talked about it, and we've known each other for decades. And so what problem do you feel that you, Skillastics, and your organization solve? Because I love that physical activity made simple is such an important piece, because I feel like George Karl taught me this. He said, basketball is an amazing game. We got to quit screwing with it. It's really simple, right? It's guard somebody, right? It's make the layup. It's pass the ball. It's very simple. But for some reason, we've made everything so complex, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the one thing that I have always concentrated on is I look at the instructors that are actually teaching the children. Okay. And you think about what kind of experiences they have teaching children fundamentals of sport and or physical activity. They may just be part-timers that are just filling, a need, or they have some experiences. But if they're younger, their opportunity or their experiences teaching large amount of kids is probably limited. And so they become overwhelmed, and it basically ends up like just throwing a ball out and letting the skilled kids just play. And so what I concentrated on and wanted to do is create a curriculum that really was simple to follow for these people that are not as experienced, so that the children would get the proper teaching. They would be taught correctly. We want all children to have a great experience. And the best way is that the instructors are taught correctly so that they have the confidence to instruct these kids. And so my products have been created for large groups of kids. You might have 40, 50, 60 kids that you're working at one time. And so Skillastics allows all of them to play together to work on the basic fundamentals of different sports and physical activity. That makes it very simple for them to do. And that's where we have found that it's been really successful, because we have the resources, but then we've created the curriculum around the resources to make it easy for those instructors.
So I just want to make sure I'm clear. So if I'm a teacher in a school, obviously it makes sense. If I'm running an after school program, it would make sense. If I'm in Parks and Rec, and like, it's funny, I'm giving a talk coming up. It's called the Surf and Turf, about how to prepare their staff for summer camps.
Okay.
Right?
Awesome.
And I feel like, man, you should be giving this talk, because there's a lot, like you're talking about, obviously organization, planning, and whatnot. So let's talk about the difference, because I think it's always fun to me, the blend between being prepared, having your plan, and the blend of that with the enthusiasm and the energy that you bring. I remember watching and seeing you, because you had a plan, you had a routine, but you brought the energy with it. And I think that's the magical blend, right?
Yeah. I think it starts with the directors, the park and recreation directors, and or human resources that hire these people. You got to hire people that love working with kids, are enthusiastic. Those are the key ingredients, because if you have those pieces, then those people are going to be more open to learning, to teach the kids, and to get excited. I always tell instructors that you are a mirror. Those kids are watching your every move. They're looking up to you. And if you come in and just say, okay, we got half an hour to spend, I got a few things for us to do. How do you think the kids are going to act? But, looking at the commercial, I was just looking at, we had our break and seeing there's one instructor running back and forth in front of the kids and getting them all excited. That's what you want. So, being able to get that, then it's going to be so much easier to teach that particular instructor to really be enthusiastic, to get those kids motivated.
I love that. And if you run, it's funny, because I think that parent volunteer coaches get a bad name in the United States.
Yeah.
And I think part of that is because there's some idiots out there that are so either daddy ball because my kid's the best, or they're so over the top. But the reality is, if 9 out of 10 kids that are playing sports in the United States, 9 out of 10 kids that are playing youth sports under the age of 13 in the United States are coached by a parent volunteer or a Parks and Rec volunteer, we gotta educate them. We gotta help them.
Have to.
Right? So tell me a little bit about maybe a couple things. If I'm a parent and I played, we'll stick with today's basketball thing. I played basketball in high school through my junior year, got cut during varsity. I don't know, I'm just making it up. We're having fun. Sure. And then my daughter is going to play, but the Parks and Rec didn't have anybody to coach. She's 7. She's never played before. And I go, sure, I'm in. What would you say to, besides coming to you and saying, Sandy, how do I do this? Because they may not have access. What would you suggest?
I would suggest initially, number one, it's all about fun for these kids. We want these kids to enjoy it so that hopefully they'll continue. And as they go, some may continue at a higher level, but some might play just for recreational purposes. Some may play as they get to be young adults, play in, intramural sports in college, whatever it might be, but they're participating. Okay. First of all, fun. Second, make it very simple, simple, and don't be overwhelmed and start teaching. Okay, everybody, we're going to do a 2-1-2 zone. Oh, we're going to teach you how to do. No, let's work on just fun, simple things. And you got to look at the simple things and make sure that they're fun. Okay. They've got to be fun. So okay. Where do you find that? Of course, we've got the internet. You can always find fun basketball drills. Definitely.
Right.
As a company, I mean, we lay it out for you. We've created it all for you. We've made it simple for you. We've made it fun for you so that we found that there was a need. There was a definite need, and that's what we tried to do, was fill that need. But even without a company like ours and our help, you still have resources out there. But just not looking at the win-loss column. It's all about just getting those kids to enjoy it and have a positive experience.
It goes back to Magic when we ran his camps, and he said, "What's the number one goal? Is to win kids, right?" That's what it was about, right?
Yeah.
And I think, though, when we look at this in the big thing of things, in the Parks and Rec space, people may not know this, but we're going to reiterate. Number one is always safety. And number two is that they have so much fun and a positive experience, they want to come back and do it again.
Absolutely.
That's it. And that's the deal. So if you're a parent volunteer out there and you're coaching, you can go to YouTube and find stuff, but don't go if you're coaching 7-year-olds, don't go get drills for college kids.
No.
That's not going to fit.
That's not going to win.
No, it's not going to do it. We got to keep it down at that level. So when you think about, you've been doing this a while, I've got concerns about what I'm seeing with kids. And it's interesting because they say that kids have changed. And I'm thinking maybe, but I feel more like parents are the ones that have changed more. We're less, you were allowed to take healthy risks as a child. Mm-hmm. You were probably held individual accountability for what you did in life. Nowadays, 25, 30 years ago, a student got an F on their paper. They were sitting in the chair and the parent and the teacher were pointing at the student, like, what's going on here? And nowadays, 2025, 2026, the teacher's sitting in the chair, right? And the student and the mom or dad are pointing at the teacher.
Right.
So how would you say that we can help the people out there to develop? I love the idea of making it fun. And I do love making things competitive within it. But I also think that there needs to be that accountability or that growth opportunity. So how does that work with you guys? How does that growth opportunity work with you guys?
Yeah, we talk a lot about, one of my products is Characters Cool Skillastics. So each of the activities are associated with a character trait, and they're teamwork and leadership activities. So children, for instance, let's give you an idea of, there's an activity called Wave Sync, where the children are in a circle and they all have to take turns like a wave at a baseball game. Right. And then we talk, and it's associated with responsibility. Why? Because every child is responsible to do their part in order to make that work. You see at a ball game, when one section doesn't do it, everybody boos them. They weren't responsible to be a part of this. And so those are things that you've got to look at yourself as a child, and the parent has to say, this child has to have some accountability. It's okay to discipline them and say, this was not right, or you didn't provide the responsibility or the teamwork aspect, giving somebody the high five, like you were talking about, or acknowledging the fact that they passed the ball to me so that I was successful. Right. Those are all pieces that need to be addressed appropriately, and allowing them to understand how important it is for those pieces to be a part of the development of a child. And it's okay to knock them down a bit. The ego, I remember growing up small town, I was all world in that small area, tri-state area. And then I went to college, and boy, did I have a lot to learn. And boy, did that hit my ego. And I had a choice. Do I either quit or do I continue? Yeah. And I continued. I wasn't a quitter, and I kept going at it. And I swallowed that pride and said, I've got a lot to learn.
Right.
And I think that is so important for kids to learn nowadays.
Yeah, learning how to fail is
Yeah,
it's a skill,
it is.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's one thing I love about sports because, the best ball players in the world in baseball are going to get out 7 out of 10 times. The best shooters are going to miss over half their shots. So that's failure, so you have to develop the resiliency to come back through. If Parks and Recs does it right, they get more and more kids. I'm finding more and more now that I'm seeing more kids coming in. And I love the fact that you're talking about the character piece because that's such, I don't think there's any better life skill teaching tool than what you're doing, right? I mean, that's what you're talking about, right?
Yeah. Because it falls over not in the sports that you're doing, but it falls over into your work ethic in school, academics. It fall over into what kind of a partner you're going to be, what kind of parent you're going to be, what kind of employee you're going to be. I mean, it follows over to all that. That's why I mean, sports, participating in any type of sports, there's so many aspects of it that just make you a better human being. And I mean, you and I probably could go on for hours and hours about how important sports are for kids.
Right.
And, but it's not, when you look at it, sports, okay, yeah, but it's not the winning and losing. It's all those other pieces that make sports so great, that make you, a decent human being, I guess.
Well, and I want to pivot into the school side of things. I don't know if we've got teachers listening or whatnot, or administrators, but I will tell you this. I know for a fact there are kids, probably my son, that went to school for two reasons, right? Recess and lunchtime and PE, right? That's after school, right? That's why he went. He's like, okay, so if you keep your grades up, you get to play sports. If you don't, you don't, right? There's the accountability, right? And Mason, sorry, but I'm throwing you to the bus, but that was the deal, right? Part of that. But then why are we cutting recess out? And that they don't have PET. Like what's going on, and how do we bring that back? And is that kind of what you're doing? You're helping them. If I'm not a traditionally trained PE active person, I can use your system to fake it till I make it and inspire the kids. Is that kind of what it's about?
Yeah, when they're dropping so many physical education, music programs, art programs, we take the physical activity piece specifically in after school programs, because now after school programs are asked to teach physical activity.
Right.
Who do they hire? Part-time young kids who don't have the experience in physical activity. So what we do is we make it so simple for them to teach, to have the confidence to teach it right. We just don't want them to throw a ball out to the kids that are athletic. We want all kids to participate and enjoy being physically active the best that they can with the skills that they have. But you need a guide. You need a roadmap to be able to do this. And that's what we do.
Got it. I love it. So in the after school space, let's dig into that a little bit. So you've got schools all over the country that are basically saying we've got either after school enrichment programs, which that's a blessing in itself, especially in California. They've got a lot of that opportunity. But there's a lot of other areas that are like, the most dangerous time for a child is between 3 and 6 p.m. Especially if they're like I was, where my mom wasn't available. My dad left when I was 3, and you're out doing whatever you're doing. And thank God we had a neighborhood, and we just went down and played ball on our own. Because one of my guests a long time ago said to me, which I thought was great, is we keep them on the court so they don't end up in the courtrooms, right?
Yeah. Exactly.
So you're giving curriculum. Give me more detail on this, because this is really interesting to me to see how to help them help themselves, basically, right?
Well, so 36 weeks, that's pretty much a school year. And so we say, here we have it. Week 1, this is what you're doing. This is what you're following. This is the equipment you're using. This is a dashboard, unlimited access, lifetime access to seeing videos of, if you don't see it in the manual how to teach, then you can look at a video. Here's week 2, day 1, what you're going to do. And we just have that roadmap for them to follow, making it very, very simple, using our Skillastics products as well as additional add-on products that we feel that the kids will enjoy. So again, just step by step. I think, I had coaches in college. I played my college ball at Fresno State, and our coach was very big on the fundamentals. And I took that very intricate things and I placed it into our curriculum, making it simple. making it very easy, and understanding how important those pieces are in the overall success of the program.
You know, I think that it can be intimidating when you talk about athletics.
Yeah.
And to me, I feel like I have parents that say, well, my kid's not an athletic kid.
Yeah.
He's not a sports kid. I go, well, just add the 3 letters yet, right? Because if you give them the exposure to something that you're doing, right, and give the opportunity, like here's what I tell everybody: my kids, they did well in sports, but a big part of that was because I signed them up for a clinic before any league play. And I wanted to make sure that they had the fundamentals, the boundaries, the basics, the concepts, the confidence. So when they went to play in the league, they knew where's right field, where's first base. My kids weren't the ones that started running to third base after they hit because they got that basic understanding. And it sounds to me you're doing such a great job of building a foundation. It may not be sports specific. So I want to ask about that a little bit, because we're big on multi-sport, on sports sampling. Is that really the premise of what you do, or do you do it seasonal, or how does it work?
Well, I think not all kids, what you said, not all kids are athletics. We all have our specialties, and it might be music, it might be art, it could be anything, whatever, technical, computer, whatever it is. And you may not be wired to play athletics, but all children deserve to have a positive experience being physically active for their health and well-being. So we need to make sure that they're moving. So we have sports specific kits and part of the curriculum, yes. And we start very basic so that all kids can enjoy it. But we also focus on physical activity, integrating academics with the physical activity. So those kids that maybe are just the academic nerds, I guess you would say sometimes, that all the athletes end up working for,
right.
Those kids end up having confidence because they're answering the questions so that everybody can move on before everybody else, and they feel good about it. So we integrate so many other pieces that allow all children to enjoy the body moving. And some of them might get into sports too. So it's everything, multi-physical activity.
Love it. Yeah. And the ability, because I think the other part is that if you're moving your body, right, and using your brain, it's going to be more stimulating.
Right.
And I think what you're saying is that some kids are going to excel in the brain part of it, and some are going to from the athletics part of it. So you're giving kids an opportunity to excel in what they're good at, but also push them a little bit to try something out of their comfort zone, right? Yeah. To try to mix it together.
Yeah, in a team effort, that they need all those pieces in order to move forward in the activity for a Skillastics activity kit. So, they need all the pieces. I need, the kid that athletic that I'm not quite sure about this, but let me show you. And then I got to answer the STEM question. Who's got it right away so we can move on? And so, yeah.
Very cool. So it sounds like there's some major companies that need to have you come in and do some of these for them. Right?
I wouldn't mind doing that at all.
Yeah, that would be a lot of fun. If you're a company out there, or if you're in Parks and Rec, think about this, and you're looking to do a leadership training and be able to do some team bonding and building, I would get in touch with Sandy, because that sounds like a really great way. I mean, just even the wave, and it would be fun for them to do, and connecting the dots and different things. I jokingly, when I tell everybody when I speak, I say, ask for their eyes, clap twice.
Yeah.
Twice, and I say, I'm going to guarantee I'm going to get a standing ovation. So everybody stand up for a second, eyes, and anyway.
Yeah, perfect.
Interactive, and whether you're teaching it or they want to do it themselves, it sounds like a really special way of connecting the dots and using, again, we say athletics, sports, movement. I love the way you're kind of saying it's really movement, right? It's physical activity. And I think that is something that is, because they get these things at such young ages, that's a challenge, right? And we got to get away from that, and we got to get them off those screens and get them moving. So let's get esoterical and deep for a minute, right? Because we can do that. Once you're north of 25 years old, we can go there. What gives you both? I'll call it a rose and a thorn, or a concern and a excitement about, let's say, kids sports, kids athletics, kids movement, any of that? What's the pinch point you're seeing that kind of is a little bit nerve-wracking? And then let's flip to the other side, which is what is the upside and the exciting side of that?
Sure. Concerning side is children specializing in a sport at an early age that can cause injuries at a young age and burnout. I think, and you've got that all over. It's a big business. I see it. And, everybody sees it. And there are kids that love it and there are kids that are forced into it. But I worry about the overuse injuries at a young age. So that's concerning to me. What I'm excited about is seeing things like you're doing, exposing kids to a variety of different sports and physical activity in a way that makes it fun and just gets them moving and having fun and building a team and, and winning and losing too, because that's part of life. You win, you lose, exposing kids to sports. And that to me, that's what I did. I wasn't 365 days a year playing basketball. That wasn't it. I see kids getting burnt out but being able to see kind of a revival of, wait a minute, we don't have to do this. We can expose kids to a lot of different sports and making it fun. And then move from there. If there's a passionate kid that wants to get into those other club teams and all those, go for it. But for the normal child, just get them moving, have a positive experience moving, so they'll be a healthy individual as they grow.
Yeah, love that. The well-rounded, right? Body, mind, spirit. I mean, there's a million different ways to say how it gets said, whatnot. But what you're talking about, and I could not agree more with the specialization, the elite club travel. And again, I don't have any problem if the kid is ready to compete at that level, man, go for it, go get it. Yep. But on the other hand, the other 98% of the kids, right?
That's right.
Let's just play for the love of the game. And for me, the biggest concern I have is actually not the kids, it's the parents.
Yeah.
I think that the parents have got sucked into the vortex of, my mom used to say is that I love where you're going, but I also love who you are right now. Yeah. And that ability to celebrate who the kid is as they're going through it gives them that unconditional feeling that they're not being judged because they can't make a three-pointer, and you enjoy the journey with them, right? I mean, that's a big part of the process.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So when you look at how sports has changed and what it's gone and it's big business, and I don't even really want to dive too much into it because I know it'll give us both a headache, but the NIL and what's going on with college sports is really, it's a pinch point right now. It's really driving me nuts because, I talk to Division I coaches now and I said, well, how's recruiting changed? What's going on? I go, well, first thing, we have to recruit our own players again. Right.
Yeah.
I'm like, wow, because it's not about commitment. It's not about the team long play. Then we have to recruit players we played against. Right. And then, so high school is not even a thing. They're not even looking at those kids. No. So maybe we should wipe that out a little bit and get more into the scholastics end of it and more where they're actually just having fun playing sports. And then the ones that really naturally progress and grow to the peak, maybe that's the place, right?
Yeah, it's so different than when I played in college. And, I mentioned that in my book. I go through that with regard to the fact that, I was performing throughout our area while I was playing, but I could not get paid 1 cent because then I would have been considered a professional. I just did it for the love, the exposure, the experience. And what's wrong with playing college sports for the love of sports and getting an education?
Right. Yeah, I get it. Okay, so we're coming up. We got a couple minutes left. I want to dive into two things. One is your book because I'm excited, and the other, and it's just come out. Right?
It's going to be out within a month.
Within a month. Okay, great.
Yeah.
So let's do this. Let's give the name of the book. I would also like to talk a little bit more about Skillastics because I would imagine there's people that are going, hey, I want what she's got. So how does that all work? Where do they go?
Yeah. So I guess with regard to Skillastics, our website, it's www.Skillastics. You see the Skillastics, how it's spelled on your screen. Skillastics.com is, the website to go to take a look at it, to check out our programs. Info@Skillastics.com is where to go with regard to say, hey, I want to talk to somebody and learn a little bit more about your program and see if it's a good fit for us. Right. So love to have people do that as well.
Okay. And then they can also, you're probably on LinkedIn and,
yeah, LinkedIn, you'll see Skillastics, Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, all of them, X. Yeah.
Okay. Tell me a little more about the book.
So for many years, people have said, Sandy, you should write a book. You've got a lot of great stories. And I thought, I brushed it off. Yeah. But I never really thought about it until about a year and a half ago. I had major back surgery, and laying on the couch for 5 months basically gave me the thought, maybe I should, maybe this is the time. And so this book is called Basketball to Business, an entrepreneur's journey of reinvention, resilience, and results. And it's a book. The book is really about what happens when a dream ends as an entertainer, and you got to figure out what comes next. As an entertainer for over 22 years, that was me. That's what defined me. Yeah. But the harder journey was when I transitioned out of being an entertainer to building a business from scratch, which was Skillastics.
Love it.
Not a business. It's not a basic business book, a usual business book. Those are the ones, do X, Y, and Z, and you'll become a multimillionaire. Yeah. No, it's an honest look at the ups and downs, the setbacks, and the mindset it takes to keep going. And just a small business, and at the day, my message really is simple. It's not, success is not about getting things right all the time. It's just keeping going, trying to figure it out. So,
and that translates into life and everything. I can't wait. I'll be one of the first ones to order a copy of that for sure. I appreciate your time, and I love reconnecting with you. I mean,
same here, Aaron.
Decades and that, and I know we're going to circle back. Definitely, I don't know, maybe at the end of summer when your book is out, let's dig in a little bit. We can dig in more on that.
That'd be great.
Reconnect on that for sure, and keep going. So Skillastics, Sandy Slade, find it. It's really great stuff. By the way, if you've got a child and you're listening to this and you're looking for something to do this summer, check out the National Academy of Athletics.com. We've got a lot of summer camp opportunities throughout the country. And if you're out there coaching and working with kids, just remember what we talked about today is it's got to be fun first, right? And it's got to be something that challenges the kids so that they want to stay inspired and stay engaged with it. I remind everybody to always play hard and have fun. And I thank you so much for your time and joining us today. Sandy, we'll see you down the road. Thanks, everybody. See you next week.
Thank you. Thanks, Aaron.
Thanks, guys.
This year, we didn't just attend an event. We became part of something bigger. IPRA 2026 brought together leaders, innovators, and community builders, all united by one mission: to strengthen parks, recreation, and the people they serve. For DPRS Media Network, it was an honor to join IPRA 2026 and take part in meaningful, real-time conversations, capturing stories and amplifying voices that matter. To IPRA, thank you for creating a space where collaboration thrives and the future of parks and recreation is shaped together. We extend our deepest gratitude to Amelia and all our partners who made these live interviews possible. IPRA 2026 wasn't just an event, it was a reminder that when communities connect and stories are shared, impact follows. From all of us at DPRS Media Network, thank you, IPRA. Thank you, partners and sponsors. We're honored to stand with you and excited for what's next. Are you a vendor, brand, or service provider ready to connect with the heartbeat of local communities? At DPRS Media Co., we tell the stories shaping parks and recreation across America. Through podcasts, live streams, videos, and newsletters, we reach frontline leaders, city directors, and decision makers every single week. From youth sports and facilities to programming and policy, our audience is your audience. Sponsoring or partnering with DPRS Media Co. puts your brand in front of the professionals who build, budget, and buy for their communities. Launching a new product, growing your presence in public spaces, targeting cities, counties, or departments, DPRS is your trusted media partner. Whether you're in software, turf, aquatics, robotics, smart cities, or special events, partnering with DPRS puts your brand in the story. With commercials, interviews, social campaigns, newsletters, and live shows, we're your media team. Partner with us and grow your impact in the $200 billion Parks and Rec industry. DPRS Media Co. Stories that move Parks and Rec forward. Your audience is here. Let's meet them.